The Wizard of Oz, a childhood classic film that is nostalgic for almost every generation. But did you know that they actually made a sequel to The Wizard of Oz? And no, I'm not talking about 2013's Oz the Great and Powerful, because why would I ever be talking about 2013's Oz the Great and Powerful? I'm talking about a film that is so unknown that Disney tried to hide it away and shove it in a corner because it was too intense and too dark for children to watch. Luckily, I'm 24, so I only shit my pants once. Oh, during the movie. It was just during the movie. Return to Oz is the 1985 sequel to The Wizard of Oz, which was made in 1939, and I didn't realize it was that long ago, and holy shit, how old is this movie? It takes place 6 months after the original Wizard of Oz movie, which makes me question a lot of things because I think that the creators of this movie, Return to Oz from 1985, didn't watch anything having to do with The Wizard of Oz made in 1939. Because if you look at just the attention to detail in this film, it doesn't exist. Like I said, it takes place 6 months after the original movie takes place, and the beginning plot of the movie revolves around Dorothy not being able to sleep at night and only really talking about Oz, this magical land that she went to when the tornado hit her house in Kansas. And her aunt and uncle think that she's like going insane or something, and I just can't get over the fact that this Dorothy looks so much younger than the original Dorothy. I can't get over it. I will not stop talking about it. It bothers me so much that this Dorothy looks like a child, whereas this Dorothy looks like an adult. Please help me understand. She's supposed to be older, but this Dorothy looks like she could be this Dorothy's daughter. In talking with some people who definitely know more about the subject of this film than I do, I realized that this film, Return to Oz, was supposed to be more of a book-accurate adaptation, and I didn't even know The Wizard of Oz was books in the first place, but that's not important. What's important is it's supposed to be a book adaptation, and in the books, Dorothy is much younger than Judy Garland played her in 1939 movie. So I guess it bothers me so much. Like, it bothers me because, like, if you're gonna make a movie that's specific to the books and like follows the books better than the original Wizard of Oz movie, just like make a reboot of the Wizard of Oz in 1985 because it's been, 40 fucking years since the last Wizard of Oz movie. You can make a reboot of the movie and then make a sequel a couple years later with the same cast that doesn't look like they aged backwards, and the dog won't be different because Toto is different in this movie. It's a different type of dog. Look, that is not the same type of dog as Toto. They're not the same dog. Back to the subject at hand. Her aunt and uncle think that she's like insane, so as any guardians would, naturally, you take her to the doctor. They take her to a doctor, except since it's the turn of like the 20th century, they don't take her to like a normal doctor. So I'm going to give you a couple options as to what you think happens with this doctor. So your options are either A, a normal doctor who just gives her some therapy to be able to talk through it, B, an electroshock therapy doctor, or C, a doctor who just prescribes her a bunch of happy time sleep time pills to make her go night-night. Do you know what it is yet? It's option B, an electroshock therapy doctor. If you guessed B as the option instead of A or C, I just can't believe this was a movie made by Disney. Like, this is a Disney movie. It went straight to DVD, but it's still a Disney movie. It was still a Disney movie. So the doctor tries explaining the electroshock therapy device to like Dorothy and her aunt, and he tries to like explain it in a nice way and like showing like, oh look, there's the eyes and the nose and the mouth, like trying to give it a facial feature, like trying to give it a personality. And honestly, if I was Dorothy in that situation, that would do anything but calm me down, and I would want to get the fuck out of there. Because why do I want the thing that's gonna electrocute my fucking brain to get me to forget Oz? Why do I want that to have a face? So then later on, they like strap her down to the big bed to take her to the electroshock therapy room. And right as they're about to put the things on her head to go zap, the power goes out. How convenient. So then, as soon as all the doctors leave the room, because all of the doctors leave Dorothy in this room strapped down by herself to this table in the middle of a mental institution, a girl in a little white dress that's like glowing shows up and goes and frees her from the table. Now, mind you, I want to make this very clear. This entire time after this point in the movie, I thought that Dorothy was dead, and the entire movie was her journey to heaven. Because I thought that this girl in the glowing white dress was an angel that was taking her to heaven. And it'll make more sense as the movie goes on, and I explain more to you, but for right now, just roll with me here, because I think that that's what was happening. So at this point, the girl and Dorothy go and escape the mental institution, which no one notices until they're already well past the exit, and then they start chasing her, and they start chasing her down in like this little river thing, but the girl in the glowing white dress gets caught, and Dorothy finds like a little flotation device to go like float down the river to escape the mental institution, but then she passes out. So then when Dorothy wakes up, she wakes up in Oz with her chicken that was on the farm with her, but now the chicken can talk for some reason because it's Oz and shut up. I'd like to remind you guys that Toto was in this movie, but Toto was not the dog that we remember from the original Wizard of Oz movie. It was a completely different breed of dog, so I guess they just replaced Toto, the dog, with a goddamn chicken that can talk, which, whatever. Also, we touch on it more a little bit later in this video, but everyone in Oz that's like the villain is afraid of chickens, and I just wanted to talk about that now because what the fuck? So then after she gets out of this like desert of death that she lands at, because this desert, and this is how I knew the movie was turning for the worst, because the desert, what it does is if you step on the sand in the desert, you turn into sand too. This was a children's movie made for kids that was threatening the life of our main character by turning her into sand if she stepped in sand. So they climb rocks to get out of there, and then they start exploring the area, and she starts trying to take the Yellow Brick Road into Oz, but she finds that the Yellow Brick Road has been destroyed. And like, yeah, okay, maybe the Yellow Brick Road was under construction or something, but then she gets to the city of Oz, and everyone is turned to stone, and all the women have their heads cut off. And as she's exploring, we find these rock people that all have faces that go and report to the big rock king person who's the villain of this movie down underground or whatever. But again, all of the rocks have faces on them. So then she explores this area more and finds this robot, the Scarecrow, who is the king of Oz now, left for her. And once she twists some knobs on the robot, he explains that he can do everything but actually be alive, which is so fucking dark. But then he makes her wind him up some more and makes some really uncomfortable noises for what noises you should be making if a little girl winds you up. And again, this is a Disney movie. Like, I feel like I need to keep saying that this was a film made by Disney, distributed by Disney, that went straight to DVD, but was distributed by Disney. So then once they start to, like, escape the castle area, they get cornered by these creatures called Wheelers, which are really just like guys on stilts on bicycle wheels, but they're really creepy, and they try to corner this young girl into a very confined space. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think you should be confining little girls to small spaces. Like, I feel like that's not a thing that people should be doing, especially not, again, in a Disney movie. Also, again, if we're going with my theory that it's all just Dorothy being dead, the Wheelers are the people, like the person representation of the hospital bed wheels, because they're literally called Wheelers and they roll around on four wheels like they're the hospital bed wheelie things. So, like, I feel like that's what that was, and my brain just kept going back to it. So after the robot dude, like, fights a bunch of the Wheelers off, they capture one and interrogate him, and they're like, where do I go next? Because, you know, obviously plot. And the Wheeler tells them to go to this princess's house. And they go to the princess's castle, and the princess has a face that is not hers, and then they go into this big, like, closet, like, giant, massive walk-in closet in this palace, and it's just a whole cabinet of display cases of other women's heads from Oz that she has taken, and she uses different faces. What? This is a movie on Disney. Like you can, it's distributed by Disney. You can watch it on Disney Plus right now. It's on Disney Plus right now. So then they're like imprisoned by the princess lady, and they find this talking pumpkin guy. It's losing me here. But there's this talking pumpkin guy, and he tells them that there's this magic powder that brought him to life that the princess lady has. So they go into the princess lady's cabinet full of heads of other women and steal this magical power that just, like, brings random shit to life. And they use it to build, like, a big flying sled out of a moose head and some tree branches that they use as wings and a big couch that they use to sit on. I can't believe this is the plot of a movie. So then after a bit of flying, they conveniently crash land right in front of the Rock King's castle place. It's an underground evil villain layer of rock, whatever the shit. So just for reference, this rock guy, his name is the Gnome King, right? So when Dorothy goes to the Gnome King and said that she wants to free the Scarecrow, he says, okay, well, the Scarecrow, I turned him into an ornament, because that's just what rock kings do, I guess. They just turn characters into fucking ornaments. He said, oh yeah, we're gonna go in and you're going to find the ornament, and if you select the ornament right, you can leave with the Scarecrow. But if you don't get the ornament right, you have 3 guesses. If you don't get the ornament right, I will turn you into an ornament for my own collection. What? Also, I feel like this is a good point to mention that the Gnome King has Dorothy's ruby red slippers and he wears them. And, like, I'm cool with that. Don't get me wrong. But, like, why are you wearing a child's slippers? Like, they're, like, ruby slippers. Like, why are you wearing a little girl's slippers? Like, I'm cool with it. Like, do whatever you want to do. Like, I'm cool with that. But, like, why are you doing it? Like, why are you wearing the slippers? Like, it's all cool, but so eventually, after a couple of the people in their whole ragtag band of misfits are turned into ornaments, they figure out that all of the ornaments that are the characters are green. Everything else is not green, and the ornaments of people in it are green. So they go and use the magic word Oz to, like, unturn the people from ornaments into people. Again, a plot of the movie. So they go back victorious over the Gnome King, and the Gnome King gets really mad, and he tries to eat the pumpkin dude, but, and again, remember earlier when I said they were afraid of chickens, right? The chicken has been inside of the pumpkin's head the whole time, so when he goes to turn the pumpkin guy upside down, the chicken lays an egg, and it turns out that eggs are poisonous to the rock people, so it blows up the fucking Gnome King. Oh, and also they free Ozma, who's the one true heiress of the Kingdom of Oz, which I didn't know about until they said it at the end of the movie there. And I didn't know that she was trapped in the first place. And it was the girl in the little white glowing dress. So my question is, how did the girl in the white dress, being captured in Oz, go to Kansas to rescue Dorothy? Like, how did that what did she do? Like, how did that happen? And at this point in the movie, the whole Kingdom of Oz has been saved. Dorothy wished everyone back with the ruby slippers. And all her friends are okay. You know, the Cowardly Lion and the Scarecrow and the Tin Man. And then all of her other friends too, which is like what happens when your high school friends, you know, the Cowardly Lion, the Tin Man, and the Scarecrow, meet all of your college homies. And it's just like that. But then Dorothy insists on going home, and Ozma tells her, oh, well, you can come back to Oz whenever you want. Just let me know and I'll come grab you, which is apparently a thing that she has the power to do. And then they coax her to go into the bright white light. Now, I'd like to bring us back to when I said that I thought that this was about Dorothy's death, and that Dorothy was dying, and this was her journey into heaven. Because if you look at it, and you look at the parallels that way, you look at her going into the bright light, and you are convinced that she's going to heaven. And that is all I could think of in that moment, and I thought that was where the movie was going to end. But it doesn't, because she wakes up, and she's in the middle of the woods, and like cops find her or whatever, and they bring her home to her aunt and uncle. And then the people that were in the medical area, which were also the villains in the movie in Oz, are arrested. They're just arrested. And then the movie just kind of ends with Dorothy back on the farm because her aunt and uncle just like either believe her now or just don't want to admit that she's insane, so they're going to like let her be insane. It's just how the movie ends. Like, I somehow walked away from this movie with more questions than answers, and I thought that I was going to not have any questions going into it or leaving the movie because it's just a sequel to The Wizard of Oz. But it's so much more complex than that in the literal dumbest ways possible. So Return to Oz, which I'm kind of shocked actually is a movie that exists. Where did it go? Where's it all going? What? Did I just dream this? Did I just imagine this? Am I losing my mind? Is that what's happening right now? Okay, I guess I'll see you next week if I figure out my concept of time.